I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Joshua Waldman. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
I'm doing really well, Angel.
Hey, it's a great pleasure to connect with you, Joshua. What part of the world are you in right now?
I live in Portland, Oregon, and it has just started to look like autumn. The trees are beautiful. They're turning a fiery orange, although it has started to rain, but that's just the way it is up here.
I love it. A friend visited this weekend, and he was telling me about the amazing hikes, and he was showing me some of the hikes that you all have available there in Oregon. I can't remember the exact place he said he was, but wow, there's a guy who was hiking and he was coming up barefooted, and he said,
Yes.
he said, "Wow, you're barefooted," and the guy said, "Yeah, that's how we do it."
It could have been my friend. I have a friend. He's like, I don't know, 72, and he has these hobbit feet for barefoot hiking all the time.
Wow! It's the views are amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, please, is it okay if I call you Josh?
Yeah, that's fine. Joshua.
Does everyone do that though? Like shortening Joshua to Josh immediately?
They do. When you're my grandma, you shorten it to Joshy. So as long as you don't do that, I'm cool.
Well, Josh, tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us meeting?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, because we were introduced from Matt Gersper, and because he had a podcast with you a while back, and I met him at a conference, and then subsequently invited him to meet my audience for a webinar coming up for the Billy users, and I was thinking, what was it that caused him to want to suggest that we connect? And I think it was just being totally vulnerable with him and letting him know that I'm running this cool software company, and I'm really struggling to get the word out, and he just spontaneously wanted to help out. So vulnerability, maybe it could be the the skill.
Yeah. Well, I think so. All right, so I would say it takes a certain type of scenario for an individual who is usually introverted to open up, right? Are you introverted or extroverted? Usually?
Oh, I'm very introverted. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing from previous experiences, there were cues that indicated Matt is someone that can be trusted to some level, and Matt is definitely a connector, right? And this is not the first time he's connecting. Like the first time, wow, he jumps in there and he connects.
Yeah.
So I would like to call it insight on your behalf, if I could.
Sure, I'll take that.
Yeah. So who did you learn that from?
I think a lot of what I've learned it comes from being dyslexic, and being able to understand context. I think when you said insight, I think sort of part of that is understanding context. Like what is Matt not saying that I'm also reading about him, or in general anybody, right? So I remember sitting in math class and having no idea what was going on in the class, and having to do extra work with context, like what answers are working, what answers are not working, or even just reading class. I wasn't able to read until 5th grade.
Wow.
And so getting through school just every day was paying a lot of attention to context and people and expressions and so forth. And I think that probably played a lot into it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Wow. So why will you continue to repeat this skill? The skill of not using the theoretical to move forward, but to use the practical, if you would.
Use the practical. Yeah. I'm a really big fan of Stoicism. And, I think what's cool about it is very practical. It's a philosophy that you can use immediately every day. And, there's sort of a fun thing sitting around drinking red wine and eating cheese and talking with friends about the impractical. But as a creator, there's nothing more satisfying than having an idea manifest, and I think that's probably what drives me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fascinating. Now, tell us about your business. Tell us what you do.
So Billy, right now I'm the president and CEO of Billy. It's billyapp.com. It's an accounting platform that makes numbers less scary for freelancers and people who really just want to have that financial freedom in their lives. And they don't want to hire an accountant or understand what double entry means and reconciliation and all that. They just want to know who owes them money and send professional looking invoices without paying a fortune for it. So um, it's a joy to be a part of people who are aspiring to do that and to make that happen for them.
So I use FreshBooks, right?
Hmm.
What would you say you have on FreshBooks?
So FreshBooks is a beautiful looking software. However, it doesn't do your taxes really well because as soon as you download that spreadsheet and send it to your accountant, that accountant has to put it into their double entry system and reconcile to make sure there's no errors, make sure all the accounts balance and so forth. And it probably adds another 2 to 3 hours of
Hmm.
accounting time to your tax preparation. So what we're trying to do, and yet on the other side, if QuickBooks and Xero are oftentimes very difficult for new freelancers and
Yes, it
entrepreneurs
is.
to use. So there's sort of like this gap. How do I have something that's easy to use, but also kind of helps get me a leg up at tax time? And that's what Billy does. It's really nice looking software, but it also has a powerful um,
Hmm. Where can I go to find out more?
check out. It's just billyapp.com, BILLYAPP.com.
Love it. Well, Joshua, please do tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
So this might be counter to some of the other responses, but consistently, I have made a habit of doing something completely unrelated to my business daily.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a really firm believer that your intelligence is not your thinking, but it's something deeper. Your unconscious mind. I think our brains are really capable of enormous things, and sometimes when you keep thinking about it, you just don't get anywhere. But when you can relax, um, the answers tend to come. And so over the last 3 years, I've adopted other skills, like I picked up playing the ukulele, um,
Sweet.
which I do every day, fiction writing, exercise, things really just to take the conscious mind away from the problems that you're trying to solve. And I think it gives you so much space and insight into your own life and your own being.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. In Trinidad, we call what is something like the ukulele quattro.
What?
So you should check out. Yeah, I'll send you some quattro music. So we call it parang, and
Okay.
it's a Spanish type music. I think you'll love it, but I'll definitely send that to you. At least a link, right? So you could feel the vibes of that.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel, though, Joshua?
It makes me smile. I mean, I think that aloha spirit is what the world needs. We need to be welcoming and loving to one another, and there's nothing better than picking up an instrument and making music and knowing that you're smiling and you're making other people smile too.
Love it. Amazing audience, we are live with Joshua Waldman. Do check out Billy app. I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out. Again, Billy, Billy app. Joshua, let's switch gears for a moment and
Sure.
let me invite you now into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Joshua, what is your earliest childhood memory?
So I remember riding on a big wheels, and I don't know if you remember what big wheels are, if you had them in Trinidad, but they're these little plastic uh, three-wheeled bicycles with a big wheel in the front and a handlebar.
Yeah.
And they're always bright colors. And I remember riding one of those around my dad's factory. And when you're a little kid in a big factory, it's just everything feels like there's an exploration, there's a discovery about to happen. And so tearing across the factory floor, looking into hidden rooms and under tables and workshops, and exploring on the weekend when my dad had to work late and he was sort of babysitting us. That's my earliest memory.
Wow, how old do you think you were?
Yeah, I must have been five, maybe
Mm.
5 or 6.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
That sense of discovery and adventure, I think, has always stayed with me. I lived in Kathmandu for 3 years, and have spent many, many years in Asia exploring, and I think that sense of adventure is just very motivating to me. New things, I really love that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely does connect, right? Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I love the fact that, you spoke about being this short attention, right? Or even dyslexic, right? So you spoke about that. And it's fascinating how at that age, it seems as though you knew you needed to entertain yourself by going through and seeing other rooms, right? Which is super fascinating, right?
Yeah.
So you're there, short attention span, you don't see things the way others see things, but yet you are moving in your elements, right? And I like the image as well as the big wheel, where one wheel in front, one big wheel is directing the other two.
Yeah.
The leadership aspect of what's necessary to help others move along.
I like that. I like that a lot.
You're welcome. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
When I was 12, I was really obsessed with Joseph and his multicolored dream coat.
I wonder why.
I've always been fascinated with dreams and dreaming. And there's nothing more archetypal for me than Joseph, because, the story, just to recap for your listeners, he's betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. And, his life is really going into the rot. And, and he starts to have these prophetic dreams. And pretty soon the Pharaoh takes notice and puts him up and brings him to highest levels of government. And, just because he dreamt and was of service to other people, he was able to, he couldn't control being sold into slavery, but he was in control of having a good attitude about it. Yeah. I mean, he really was one of those guys who emerged from the mud and came out on top.
It's fascinating how it connects, though. Joseph was definitely a different type of thinker in the midst of the same classroom thinking, if you would, right? It's amazing how that connects. Wow. And even the quote and how beautiful it's like the thing that you wouldn't think one would focus on is the focus, and then it's the thing that is integral for an entire change of an entire nation, right? Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Hey, good connections.
Yeah. Well, Joshua, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no. We're going to go pretty quickly here. Have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I have not.
Are you married?
I am.
Do you have children?
I have a stepdaughter.
Do you believe in God?
I do not.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
I do.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It's more than 8.
After having 1,001 conversations in 3 months, I came up with a workbook that's called Yours, and it stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. Connected to that is your own unique real statement. If you had to share with us, Joshua, a statement that represents who you are, your mission, what would you say that is?
I hope you don't bleep this one out. Don't be an asshole.
Joshua Waldman, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Just check out Billy App if you are running a business or are invoicing, and check out the ukulele, in particular Jake Shimabukuro, who went on a TED Talk a couple of years ago and just blew the world away. And I'll send you a link to his amazing performance.
Yeah, please do. Joshua Waldman, my friend, this was a great pleasure. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos. I have to say now, what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones? Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.